Hello, my name is Ross and I'll be talking about how energy storage will impact society. Energy storage is defined as capturing potential energy in order to use it later. The easiest example of this is the battery in the phone that's in your pocket. Innovations in energy storage will change our lives in the coming years. Reliable energy storage will allow us to rely on intermittent, renewable energy sources. More dense energy storage will help us decarbonize our transport, anywhere from scooters to cars to planes. And being able to harness renewable energy resources will also reduce costs and barriers to access electricity. I'm going to go over some methods first. We'll be looking at how batteries work. Battery is a pretty simple device. So two electrodes, an anode and a cathode. An anode is the negative and the cathode is the positive, are immersed in an electrolyte. And basically, typical materials for this include lithium and carbon for the electrodes. So the lithium is most often used as a cathode, and the carbon is most often used as an anode. And basically, electric current flows from the cathode to anode through the electrolyte. So some pros and cons for batteries. Batteries are extremely efficient. With electric cars having a generation to discharge efficiency of about 70%, which is pretty good. Batteries are also pretty useful for anything from like phones and electronics to power grid applications, making them very flexible and scalable, which is pretty good for use. I've heard of Tesla using old electric car batteries in their power grid applications, so they're very reusable. Batteries, however, they're not very energy dense at the moment. Using a current technology, you need like 16 times larger battery to get the same range as a conventional car gas tank when comparing the gas tank to the battery. And lithium mining and battery manufacturing are also very expensive, and they're not fantastic for the environment. Blue hydrogen, it's derived from natural gas. Methane is captured from burning the natural gas, and it's reformed with steam, and this produces carbon monoxide, which is not good for the environment. Carbon monoxide is reformed again with more steam to produce more hydrogen, and an byproduct of this reaction is also more carbon dioxide, but much less than the initial. But this carbon dioxide can be captured and it can be used for other purposes, like other industrial purposes, or like your soda stream if you have one. The problem with blue hydrogen is that it emits carbon, and it's kind of location dependent. It can only be produced in Canada, in like Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC currently. Now we're going to look into green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is produced from hydrolysis. So this involves running current through water that has some sort of electrolyte in it, so like salts or something, and that splits it into hydrogen and oxygen. This can be achieved through renewable energy or non-renewable energy. Obviously, though, if we want to decarbonize everything, we have to use renewable energy. It is very expensive to do it. It's about 4 times the cost of blue hydrogen, and the process itself isn't very efficient, only being 66% efficient. Now looking at some pros and cons. When compressed, hydrogen has a similar energy density and weight compared to gasoline. So like a hydrogen tank would be comparable to a gasoline tank in a car. And green hydrogen can also be produced almost anywhere if electrolysis equipment becomes cheaper and more available. It's just a matter of building up the infrastructure. Some cons, blue hydrogen obviously produces carbon emissions, but it's going to be necessary because we won't have enough. It won't become cheap enough to use green hydrogen everywhere. But we'll have to phase it out if we want to ever decarbonize everything completely. Producing hydrogen and transporting it is also very energy intensive and inefficient. When it comes to transmission losses, it only adds up to about a 30% efficiency between generation to wheel if you're driving a hydrogen car. So now we're going to look at some applications. Obviously, consumer electronics. We have lithium-ion batteries. Those are the most common types of batteries. So these batteries power gaming consoles or phones or laptops. Most advances in battery life for these devices have come from processor efficiency, and while batteries have improved, it's been less due to that. Like if you're around in the early 2000s, some devices back then had a battery life of about a week compared to the 24-hour battery of today's devices. Better battery technology not only means their devices last longer, but they also charge faster. Another sector that will be affected by improvements in energy storage is transportation. Energy storage technologies allow more people to access microtransport. You've probably seen people on those e-scooters or e-bikes zipping around town. Also allow us to electrify cars and buses with batteries. Heavier forms of transport will most likely need hydrogen because they'll need more energy dense forms of fuel. But we'll probably be I've seen applications where it's been tried out in planes and long haul trucking. And these technologies will allow us to shift away from fossil fuels to power how we get around. The last application we'll take a look at is grid power. So this would be the power coming in for your wall. Energy storage is useful technology when coupled with renewable energy resources because renewable energy sources are very intermittent. So when you think of a wind turbine, we know that the wind doesn't always blow 100% of the time. And being able to store this excess energy means we'll be able to use it to meet demand when we want, and we won't have to burn fossil fuels to help meet demand. A knock-on effect of this, though, is that all of our appliances and cars will need to be electrified, and eventually we'll need to upgrade the power grid, as the current grid is not able to handle all that electricity. And then finally, probably the most important part, is societal impacts. So first I'll be talking about the environmental impacts. So some positive impacts, we can decarbonize the power grid. Obviously, this is good because it will help mitigate the climate crisis. And there will also be a reduction in air pollution causing premature death. So air pollution from cargo ships alone causes an estimated 114,000 premature deaths around the world each year. So obviously mitigating those deaths would be a good thing. Some negative impacts, though, is there's probably going to be increased demand for these goods and the raw materials to make them. And we don't have infinite resources, obviously. Recycling methods for energy storage and renewable energy are still in development as well, so there will probably be a lot of garbage from the rapidly changing technology when people want to get something newer and better. Lastly, social impacts, some positive impacts, cheap and reliable energy for small communities to help improve their quality of life, as I said previously. And obviously better health outcomes since renewable energies don't pollute the air as much. As I said previously, it will increase air quality around the world, which will help reduce premature deaths. Some negative impacts, there will be obviously a large upfront investment for these small communities, so we'll need to dish out some money from federal governments to help get these projects rolling. And some types of energy storage can be dangerous if not handled or maintained properly. So we'll need to keep funding for these things because lithium-ion batteries are not safe if they're not designed properly. And then finally, some conclusions. So here's a quick summary of what we discussed. Energy storage will help democratize access to energy and lift people out of poverty. It'll help mitigate climate change and improve air quality around the world. It'll help improve our consumer electronics and logistics technologies. And there will be less social and political tension in countries and in between countries because energy demands can be more easily satisfied. Thank you for listening and have a great day.